Well, hello there, and welcome back to Mysteries, and Magics. It's story time. Yes. Well, no, we're not really going to read a story, but we are going to use a book that has a story in it, and we are going to talk about the tutorial for the effect I called "A Thought is Fathomed." Now, where did I get that from? Let me tell you. Few of you mentioned in your comments on the demo video that you call this book test. Well, yes and no. I mean, I suppose it's a variation of that, but every version of book test that I have ever seen, the magician says, "Oh, hey, let me take a look at this book," and they open it up, and as they're doing that, they're memorizing very quickly a word or a phrase in the book. In this particular effect, you don't do that. You don't open this book until the time comes to actually look at what the word is. Okay, so that's a difference between this routine and the standard book test routine. Where did this come from? And where did it get that ridiculous name of "A Thought is Fathomed"? Well, let me tell you. It comes from a booklet called Shh, It's a Secret. And this is what it looks like. It is not available at RP Magic Shop because it is in the public domain, and as you can see, I have it downloaded free on my e-reader. Okay, it's about 60 pages. It's a PDF file, about 60 pages, and I would say 50 of them are devoted to the roughly 40 or so effects that are in this particular book, okay, or booklet if you prefer. It's written by Ted Anneman. I'm sure some of you have heard of him, or Theodore Anneman, as he is also known. He was a very well-known, mostly mentalist, but also magician, about 100 years or so, a very prolific writer of magic effects, and he wrote this particular little booklet, which was published in 1934. Okay, again, free on the internet. It is in the public domain. Now, I love looking through old books like that, because you can always find some little nugget that you can use somewhere. A lot of these things are pushed aside. That's all old-fashioned and out of date, and so on and so forth. And yes, granted, a lot of it is. But you never know when you're going to find something you can use. And this is something that I thought was really cool for a couple of different reasons that we'll talk about. And this is not the first time that I have taken some idea from an old magic book that I got for free off the internet, because it's so old it's in the public domain. I've done it before, and I'm sure I'll end up doing it again. So, "A Thought is Fathomed" is what Anneman called his routine, so that's the name that I used. That's where it is. How does this work? Well, you have a deck of cards, and I'm sure that your audience is looking at this deck and saying, any combination of cards has got to be like infinite. Right? It's probably like 52 factorial, which for those of you who might remember your high school math, it's 52 factorial means 52 times 51 times 50 times 49. There's got to be that many different possible combinations of cards in here to find a random spot in any given book. It's got to be like a gajillion possibilities, right? Wrong, Moose Breath. 13. That's it. There are only 13 possible positions to find that particular card in, or that particular word in a book using a deck of cards. How is that possible? Because, as Ted Anneman says, the secret to it is, this is in the Si Stebbins Stack order. Anneman also says that you can use any stack, and I'm not going to argue with him by any stretch. I would just say that if you did use a Bart Harding stack or a Monica or Aronson stack or some other stack, you probably are going to end up with more than 13 possible combinations, or 13 possibilities, I guess I should say, or combinations, it's the same thing. Maybe 18, maybe 15, maybe 20, I don't know. Still, not a lot. But the Si Stebbins stack makes a nice 13 possibilities that you have to know, and it's that simple. The reason is we are ignoring the suits. Now that's why I use this particular white deck, right? In a very recent video, I trashed this deck saying it's way too expensive, and I didn't like the idea that the spades and clubs were black and the diamonds and hearts were also black. I still don't like that. I still think they're grossly overpriced at nearly $18. But for this particular routine, they're perfect because the suits don't matter. We're only looking at the face values of the cards, where one is an ace. Ace is 1, a jack is 11, queen will be 12, and a king would be 13. All right, standard stuff. That's all we're looking at, face values of the cards. How does it end up being 13? Because in the Si Stebbins Stack, anytime you have, say, a 4, all right, the next 3 cards will always be a 7, a 10, and a king. Doesn't matter if the 4 is the 4 of hearts, the 4 of diamonds, the 4 of spades, or the 4 of clubs. The next 3 cards will always be the 7, the 10, and the king. The suits will vary, but again, in this routine, it just doesn't matter. So, how do we put this all together? Now, I've got to say that I've just recently come across this, so my demo probably wasn't as smooth as it should be or could be. I really haven't practiced it much, but I thought it was so cool I wanted to kind of get it out. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything going on, I have not had a chance to do it in public and work out some of the kinks. So you've got your deck in a Si Stebbins order. I gave it the Si Stebbins Shuffle, which is really just a bunch of series of cuts done very quickly. We ended up, well, again, I had the, you could do a fake cut, and whatever kind of fake cut you want to use, and we ended up with the ace of clubs, with just an ace at the bottom. All right, so you're really looking at 4 cards. You're going to tell your participant to take the 3 off the top. Where's the 4th card? The 4th card is on the bottom, and that's your card. All right, the participant is going to take those 3 cards, and they're going to put those aside, and you're going to give them to them. You're going to ask for the deck back. You're going to take the deck, and in the demo video, I put the cards off to the side, off camera, to simulate that as you take the cards back, you take a peek at the bottom of the deck. That's the 4th card. All right, so you see an ace. All right, you take a peek, you put the cards away, and they are going to work with these 3 cards. It really doesn't matter if you turn your back or not. It doesn't matter actually when they tell you what they come up with mathematically when you give them the instructions. Turning your back just makes it kind of cool. So you're going to tell them to, first of all, count the face value of the cards. And here we have a 10, 7, and 4, so that's 21. So that number will be the page number. And the high card, the 10, will be the position of the word. So we're going to look for the 10th word on page 21. Okay? Now, because the pattern keeps repeating itself no matter what suit is involved, this is what you end up with. You end up with a chart that looks like this. And I will put this in the description box. Anytime you have an ace, you will have word 10 on page 21, as we just did. If the bottom card that you took a peek at is a 2, you're looking at word 11 on page 24. It's unique. Every card has a different combination, 13 different combinations, and none of them repeat themselves. So there are only 13 possible words that you need to know. All right. Now, I will point out the words themselves, the word positions do repeat themselves. There's 3 11s, how many 12s? 3 12s, and so on, and only one of a 7, 8, and 9, and so on. But with a 10 showing, word 13 on page 22, but if it's a 7 showing, word 13 on page 26. So the page number will always be different. The word position number might be the same somewhere, but the page number will always be different. So you will always have 13 different words to memorize, or however you want to do it. So once you have looked at your peek card, in this case the ace, what I did was I simply had a cheat sheet. And I had this hidden in my hand, and again, you can do this with your back turned. Once you know that the ace is on the bottom, you can look at your cheat sheet and see that the word that they will find using these 3 top cards will be the word the, T-H-E. Okay, so you know that already. If you're really good, you can memorize this. I'm not that good. So anyway, you give the participant, the instructions. They can either tell you before or after you write down the word where it is in the book, the page and position number. Probably works better if you have them tell you beforehand. In the video, the demo video, I did not do that. I wrote down the word before they told me where it was because I knew what it was from looking at the bottom of the rest of the deck. I knew the word from the ace. Okay, based on this little sheet and my little crib sheet. All right, now the one thing I did not do also on the demo video is you should really show that your piece of paper that you're writing down the word on is blank before you write on. I did not do that because, well, like I said, I really haven't smoothed out this particular routine yet, and I made a few mistakes. So show them the blank paper, then you write on it, you fold it up, you put it aside, and they say, okay, let's go to page 21, look at word 10. It is the word the. You might get some jokers say, hey, well, you know, the word the is the most common word in the English language. You could have guessed that anyway. Couple of ways around that. One is to find a book that doesn't use the word the on any of the combinations on this particular sheet. You can do that. If you have one that is the word the with a capital T, which actually is on this one, if the 6 had been on the bottom of the deck, the word would have been capital THE, the beginning of a sentence, and you can use that in your favor. You can say, well, it's the word the, but if I recall correctly, it's the beginning of a sentence and it's the capital T. That'll blow their minds. So anyway, that's what you can do to try to get around that. I'm sorry that the word the happened to be the one that popped up in the demo. Worst possible example, but that's what happened. And again, you don't need a particular book. You can use any book you want, your favorite author. You can use a magazine. You can use the Raytheon service manual for high bypass, low voltage flux capacitors or something. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. One thing you can do to shake things up a little bit is to have 3 different books. You can do Magician's Choice to get to the book that you want, or you can make 3 cheat sheets. Or if you're really good, you'll memorize all 39 words. Anything like that at all. Those are all different variations of how you can do this. What fascinates me about this particular idea is using cards from a deck, particularly a stacked deck, of course, to generate a pseudo-random number. As I said earlier, your audience is going to think that there's got to be almost an infinite number of possibilities, and you know that there are only 13. So what you can do is, ignoring the word position, just ignore this column, take a second deck of cards and salt 13 cards into position 21, 24, 27, 30, 20, 23, 26, and so on down the line. These numbers are not in order. They go from 12, 15, 16, 18. They're not consecutive. So there's a pretty good range. They go between 12 and 30. And you don't have to put like all diamonds or all one suit in each of these positions using the page number as a position for a card in the deck, in the second deck. You can just put any card you want there so that when you spread that particular deck open to your audience, all they're going to see is a random collection of cards in total random order. They're not going to see any particular pattern to it. They will have no idea that you have salted away 13 cards, and you use your little cheat sheet like this to force whatever card happens to be in that position, and you know what that card is going to be. Okay, so you can use that kind of thing, use it for that kind of thing as well as a mentalism effect with a book. Use it to force a card somehow. Just another little weird example of what you can do with Magic and particularly stacked decks. Okay, so that's it. That is A Thought is Fathomed by Ted Anneman. Hope you liked it, and I hope that when you do this for people in public, when the pandemic ends, they'll think that you are nothing but a literary genius, and you will leave them totally baffled.